The small diner sat quietly on the corner of a busy city street, its warm yellow lights glowing softly against the evening darkness outside. Rosa moved gracefully between tables, balancing plates and refilling coffee cups with practiced ease. Despite the ache in her feet after another long shift, she had worked at the diner for almost 3 years, ever since she needed extra money to help care for her aging grandmother. The job was simple, honest work, nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills and kept a roof over their heads. Every Thursday evening, without fail, a well-dressed man arrived precisely at 8 o'clock, always sitting at the same corner booth near the window. He ordered the same simple meal each time, spoke little, and always left a generous tip. Rosa had served him for almost 6 months now, yet she knew almost nothing about him beyond his quiet, controlled demeanor and the respectful way he always treated her. Tonight, as she approached his usual booth with his order, something felt slightly different. His sharp eyes studied her more intently than usual as she set his plate down carefully. "Thank you, Rosa," he said, using her name for the first time despite months of visits. Rosa paused, slightly surprised. "You're welcome, sir. I didn't realize you knew my name." "I make it a point to know important details," he said simply, his dark eyes watching her closely. "May I ask you something, if you don't mind?" Rosa hesitated, unsure why her heart suddenly raced slightly. "Of course." The man leaned forward slightly, his expression serious. "If you found a large amount of money, more than you could ever imagine needing, left behind carelessly by a stranger who would never notice it missing, what would you do?" Rosa blinked, caught off guard by the unexpected question. She studied his face carefully, searching for any hint of humor or explanation, but found only serious, calculated intensity. "That's an odd question," she said carefully, glancing briefly around the quiet diner. "Humor me," the man replied evenly. "I'm genuinely curious about your honest answer." Rosa considered the question seriously, taking a moment to think it through. Finally, she answered honestly. "I would try to find out who it belonged to and return it, even if it meant losing out on money I desperately needed." The man's expression remained unreadable, though something subtle shifted behind his sharp eyes. "Even if you knew for certain no one would ever find out if you simply kept it?" "Especially then," Rosa said firmly, "because knowing I did the right thing, even when no one was watching, matters more to me than any amount of money." For a long moment, the man simply stared at her, an unreadable intensity radiating from his controlled expression. Rosa began to feel slightly uncomfortable under his intense scrutiny. "Is that the answer you were hoping for?" Rosa finally asked, trying to lighten the sudden tension. The man's lips curved into the faintest hint of a smile, though his eyes remained serious. "Actually, it's exactly the answer I needed." Rosa frowned slightly, confusion evident on her face. "I don't understand." "My name is Vincent," the man said, extending his hand toward her politely, "and I owe you an explanation, though perhaps not one you're expecting." Rosa shook his hand hesitantly, noticing the firm, controlled strength behind his grip. "Okay, Vincent, what exactly is going on?" Vincent glanced briefly around the quiet diner before speaking again, his voice lowering slightly. "I run a very particular kind of business, Rosa. One that requires absolute trust and honesty from those closest to me. Unfortunately, honesty is a rare quality in my world." Rosa's confusion deepened. "What kind of business exactly?" Vincent studied her carefully before answering, his tone serious and measured. "The kind that most people would call dangerous. Powerful but dangerous." Rosa's stomach tightened with sudden unease. "Are you saying you're some kind of criminal?" "I prefer the term businessman," Vincent said calmly, though his eyes carried a serious weight that confirmed her suspicion clearly. "But essentially, yes." Rosa took an instinctive step back, her mind racing with confusion and fear. "Why are you telling me this? Why does my honest answer matter to someone like you?" Vincent's expression grew serious, his intense eyes locking onto hers directly. "Because I need someone I can trust completely for something important, Rosa. Someone honest, someone who won't be tempted by greed or dishonesty, even under pressure. Your answer just now confirmed you're exactly that kind of person." Rosa's heart raced anxiously. "I don't understand what you're asking of me." I'm not asking anything yet, Vincent said carefully. But I need you to understand something clearly, Rosa. The moment I asked you that question, and the moment you answered honestly, you unknowingly stepped into a world far more dangerous than you could ever imagine. Rosa felt a chill run down her spine at his serious tone. What do you mean? Vincent's dark eyes remained fixed intently on hers, his voice quiet but deadly serious. It means, Rosa, that from this moment forward, certain dangerous people will begin paying very close attention to you, simply because I have. Rosa stood frozen behind the diner counter, Vincent's serious words echoing in her mind. Dangerous people will begin paying very close attention to you. The sentence repeated over and over, refusing to make any sense. I think you need to explain yourself more clearly, Rosa said, her voice steady despite the anxiety building inside her. Vincent glanced briefly toward the diner's front window, checking the street outside carefully before turning back to her. Not here. Is there somewhere private we can talk? Rosa hesitated, glancing around the nearly empty diner. Her shift was almost over, and the late-night cook was already cleaning up in the back. There's a small office in the back, but I still don't understand why any of this involves me. Please, Vincent said, his tone softer than before. Just 5 minutes. I owe you a proper explanation. Reluctantly, Rosa led him to the small back office, closing the door quietly behind them. She crossed her arms, keeping a cautious distance. All right, explain. Vincent took a slow breath before speaking. I run a large organization, Rosa. One built on loyalty, but constantly threatened by betrayal from within. Recently, I discovered that someone close to me has been stealing from my organization, feeding information to a rival family. Rosa's eyes widened slightly. And that has what to do with your question to me. I need someone to help me identify the traitor, Vincent explained. Someone who isn't already part of my world. Someone whose loyalty and honesty cannot be questioned or bought. I've watched you for months, Rosa. Your consistent honesty, even in small daily interactions, is rare. Rosa shook her head firmly. I'm a waitress, Vincent. Not a spy or an investigator. I don't know anything about your world, your enemies, or how to identify traitors. You wouldn't need to, Vincent said calmly. I simply need someone trustworthy to hold on to sensitive information temporarily. Someone my enemies wouldn't suspect. Someone completely outside my usual circle. Rosa's stomach twisted with growing unease. And if I refuse? Then I respect your decision completely, Vincent said sincerely. But I must warn you, Rosa. Simply by asking you tonight, in a public place, I may have already drawn unwanted attention toward you from those watching my movements closely. Rosa felt her breath catch. Are you saying I'm in danger regardless of my answer? Vincent's expression turned apologetic, genuine regret flashing behind his controlled demeanor. Possibly. I didn't fully consider that risk before approaching you. For that, I sincerely apologize. Rosa paced anxiously within the small office, her mind racing through the implications of Vincent's warning. This is insane. Yesterday, my biggest concern was affording my grandmother's medication. Now you're telling me criminals might be watching me because of one conversation. I understand this is overwhelming, Vincent said gently. If you agree to help me, I promise complete protection. My resources are considerable, and your safety would become my absolute priority. Rosa studied him carefully, uncertain whether to trust his sincerity. Why should I trust someone from a criminal world? You don't have to trust my world, Vincent said honestly. But you can trust that I keep my promises. Ask anyone who has ever worked closely with me. My word matters more to me than anything else. Before Rosa could respond further, her phone buzzed with an incoming call from her grandmother's care facility. She answered quickly, her guarded posture temporarily replaced by genuine worry. Hello? Is everything all right? Rosa asked urgently. The caller reassured her it was simply a routine check-in about scheduling, and Rosa relaxed slightly, ending the call. Your grandmother, Vincent observed quietly. She's the reason you work such demanding hours. Rosa nodded reluctantly. She raised me after my parents passed away. I owe her everything. Vincent's expression softened unexpectedly. Then perhaps you understand loyalty and sacrifice better than most people in my own world do. Rosa studied him carefully, noticing genuine vulnerability behind his usually composed exterior. Vincent, if I agree to help you, what exactly would I be risking? Vincent hesitated before answering honestly. Real danger, Rosa. My enemies are ruthless, willing to harm anyone connected to me if it benefits their goals. I won't pretend otherwise. Rosa took a deep breath, weighing the frightening reality of her situation against her natural instinct toward honesty and fairness. And if I don't help you, will I still be in danger? Possibly, Vincent admitted honestly. Simply by speaking with me tonight, you may already be considered a potential connection worth investigating by my enemies. Rosa closed her eyes briefly, overwhelmed by the sudden complexity of her situation. When she opened them again, she looked directly at Vincent, her decision clear despite her fear. If I'm already at risk regardless of my choice, she said firmly, then I want to understand exactly what I'm facing. Tell me everything, Vincent. No more hidden truths. Vincent studied her carefully, clear respect forming behind his intense gaze. All right, I'll tell you everything. For the next half hour, Vincent explained in careful detail the complicated, dangerous world he controlled, the constant power struggles, the violent rivalries, the betrayal that had recently threatened his organization's stability from within. As Rosa listened, absorbing the frightening reality of Vincent's world, she couldn't ignore the strange sense of trust growing steadily between them, despite the obvious dangers surrounding his entire existence. Their conversation was suddenly interrupted by Vincent's phone buzzing urgently. He answered quickly, his expression tensing as he listened to the caller's message. Understood. I'll handle it, Vincent said firmly before ending the call, his controlled composure now replaced by serious concern. What's wrong? Rosa asked cautiously. Vincent's dark eyes locked onto hers, seriousness radiating clearly from his tense expression. My men just confirmed suspicious activity outside the diner. Someone's been watching us since I arrived tonight. Rosa's heart raced anxiously. Watching us? You mean right now? Vincent nodded grimly, standing quickly. We need to leave immediately, Rosa. It appears my enemies already know exactly where to find you. Rosa's heart pounded as Vincent guided her quickly through the diner's back exit, checking their surroundings carefully before stepping outside into the cool night air. A black car waited at the curb, its engine already running. Get in, Vincent said firmly, opening the door for her. Rosa hesitated only a moment before climbing inside, her mind racing with fear and confusion. Vincent slid in beside her, immediately instructing the driver to move. Who's watching us? Rosa asked urgently as the car pulled away from the diner. Likely men working for the Marchetti family, Vincent said grimly. Rivals who have wanted to expand into my territory for years. If they've identified you as someone I've spoken with privately, they'll assume you're valuable to me somehow. Rosa felt panic rising in her chest. This is exactly what you warned me about, isn't it? I'm already a target. Vincent's expression was serious, though he tried to remain calm for her sake. Possibly, which is why we need to get you somewhere safe immediately. They arrived shortly at a secure, private residence on the outskirts of the city, heavily guarded by men who greeted Vincent with quiet respect as they passed through tight security checkpoints. Once inside, Rosa finally allowed herself to process the overwhelming events of the evening. I don't understand how my life changed so drastically in just one conversation. Vincent studied her carefully, guilt evident in his expression. I should have considered the risks more carefully before approaching you. I'm sorry, Rosa. What happens now? Rosa asked, exhaustion and fear evident in her voice. You'll stay here temporarily, protected, Vincent said. I'll increase security around your grandmother's care facility as well, just as a precaution. Rosa's eyes widened with alarm. My grandmother? Is she in danger too? Not directly, Vincent reassured her quickly, but it's wise to take precautions regardless. My enemies are thorough when searching for leverage. Over the following days, Rosa remained inside Vincent's secure residence, growing increasingly restless despite the safety it provided. She noticed guards stationed quietly around the property, watching every entrance and exit carefully. One afternoon, Unable to contain her curiosity any longer, she found Vincent in his private study, reviewing documents with focused intensity. "Tell me more about this rival family," Rosa said, sitting down across from him. "If I'm going to be involved in this danger regardless, I want to understand exactly what we're facing." Vincent looked up, studying her seriously before nodding. "The Marchetti family has controlled significant territory in this city for generations. Recently, they've grown more aggressive, seeking to expand their influence by weakening my organization from within." "The traitor you mentioned," Rosa said. "Do you know who it is yet?" "Not with certainty," Vincent admitted, "but I have suspicions. Someone close to my inner circle has been feeding information to Marchetti's people for weeks now." Rosa considered this carefully. "And you believe I can somehow help identify this person?" "I believe your honesty and objectivity could be valuable," Vincent explained. "Someone from outside my usual circle, someone the traitor wouldn't suspect of being involved." Rosa sighed heavily, overwhelmed by the complexity of the situation. "This is far beyond anything I ever imagined dealing with." Vincent's expression softened unexpectedly. "I understand this isn't the life you chose, Rosa. If you truly wish to walk away after this is resolved, I will ensure you and your grandmother remain completely protected, regardless of your decision." Rosa studied him carefully, noticing genuine sincerity behind his controlled demeanor. "Why does my well-being matter so much to you, Vincent? You barely knew me until a few days ago." Vincent hesitated, something vulnerable flickering behind his usually guarded eyes. "Perhaps because your honesty reminded me of qualities I rarely encounter in my world, qualities I deeply respect, even admire." Their conversation was interrupted by one of Vincent's men entering urgently. "Sir, we've identified the men watching the diner last night. They worked directly for Marchetti." Vincent's expression hardened instantly. "Have they made any other moves?" "Not yet, but they've been asking questions around Rosa's neighborhood," the man reported grimly, discreetly but persistently. Rosa's stomach tightened with fear. "They're investigating me directly now." "It appears so," Vincent said, his jaw tightening with barely controlled anger. "Which means we need to move quickly to resolve the situation before they escalate further." Meanwhile, across the city, in a dimly lit office, the head of the Marchetti family, a sharp and calculating man named Salvatore, reviewed reports about Rosa with growing interest. "She's just a waitress," one of his men reported. No known connections to Vincent's world previously. Salvatore's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. Yet Vincent personally spoke with her privately, then quickly moved her into protective hiding. "That tells me she's more significant than a simple waitress." "What are your orders, sir?" the man asked. Salvatore smiled coldly, an idea forming clearly in his calculating mind. "Find out everything about her routine, her family, her weaknesses. If Vincent values her protection this highly, she'll become valuable leverage against him." Back at Vincent's residence, unaware of Salvatore's growing interest, Rosa struggled with the frightening reality of her situation. Despite her fear, she found herself increasingly drawn to Vincent's quiet strength and unexpected vulnerability. That evening, as she sat quietly in the residence's private garden, Vincent joined her, his expression thoughtful. "You seem deep in thought," he observed, sitting beside her. "Just trying to understand how quickly everything changed," Rosa admitted. "A few days ago, I was simply serving coffee to strangers. Now I'm hiding from a dangerous rival family." Vincent studied her carefully. "Do you regret answering my question honestly that night?" Rosa considered his question seriously. "No, I don't regret being honest. I just wish honesty didn't come with such dangerous consequences." Vincent's eyes softened, genuine emotion flickering behind his controlled exterior. "For what it's worth, Rosa, I'm deeply grateful for your honesty, despite the danger it's brought you." Their eyes met, tension building quietly between them. Before either could address the moment further, one of Vincent's guards rushed into the garden, urgency clear on his face. "Sir, we have a serious problem," he said quickly. "Marchetti's men were spotted near Rosa's grandmother's care facility just moments ago." Rosa's heart dropped instantly. "My grandmother. Is she safe?" "She's currently secure," the guard reassured quickly. But it's clear Marchetti is testing our defenses, searching for weaknesses. Vincent stood immediately, his protective instincts fully engaged. Increase security around the facility immediately. Rosa, I promise you, I will not let anything happen to your grandmother. Rosa nodded, fear and gratitude mixing together as she realized just how deeply she had already become entangled in Vincent's dangerous, complicated world. Security around Rosa's grandmother's care facility increased significantly over the following days, carefully arranged to avoid alarming the elderly residents or staff. Rosa spoke with her grandmother through brief phone calls, maintaining the fragile lie that she was simply staying with a friend temporarily. Despite the constant tension surrounding her situation, Rosa found herself spending increasing amounts of time with Vincent, their conversations deepening with each passing day. She began noticing sides of him that completely contradicted her initial assumptions about dangerous mafia bosses. One evening, as they shared a quiet dinner together, Rosa studied him thoughtfully. You're nothing like I expected when you first told me the truth about your world. Vincent raised an eyebrow curiously. What exactly did you expect? Someone cruel, perhaps. Cold and calculating without any real emotion, Rosa admitted. Instead, you're careful, thoughtful, clearly burdened by difficult responsibilities you never fully wanted. Vincent's expression grew distant, memories clearly surfacing. My father built this empire through fear and ruthless control. I inherited it reluctantly after his death, promising myself I would lead differently. What made you choose a different path? Rosa asked gently. Watching my father destroy every genuine relationship he ever had through cruelty and mistrust, Vincent explained honestly. I refused to become that same kind of man, even if it meant facing constant challenges from those who see kindness as weakness. Rosa felt genuine admiration growing for him despite the danger surrounding his entire existence. That takes real courage, choosing integrity in a world that rewards ruthlessness. Vincent looked at her, vulnerability flickering behind his usually guarded eyes. You make it sound simpler than it feels most days. Their conversation was interrupted by a soft knock at the door. One of Vincent's most trusted men, Antonio, entered quietly, his expression tense. Sir, we've identified the traitor within our organization, Antonio said grimly. It's someone close to you, someone you've trusted for years. Vincent's expression hardened instantly. Who? Antonio hesitated slightly before answering. Marco, your personal driver. Vincent's jaw tightened with visible anger and disbelief. Marco has been with me since I took over the organization. Are you certain? Completely certain, sir, Antonio confirmed. We intercepted communications directly linking him to Salvatore Marchetti. Vincent sat back, clearly troubled by this painful betrayal. Rosa watched him carefully, noticing genuine hurt behind his controlled exterior. I'm sorry, Rosa said softly, placing a comforting hand on his arm. Betrayal from someone you trusted deeply must be incredibly painful. Vincent looked down at her hand, then up into her eyes, something warm and appreciative passing between them. Thank you, Rosa. Genuine understanding is rare in my world. Antonio cleared his throat, uncomfortable interrupting their moment. Sir, what are your orders regarding Marco? Vincent's expression turned serious and determined. Bring him in quietly. I want answers before we decide how to handle this situation. As Antonio left to carry out his orders, Vincent turned back to Rosa, his expression softer now. I apologize for allowing you to witness this darker side of my world. Don't apologize, Rosa said firmly. I already understood the risks and difficulties of your life. Seeing them directly doesn't change how I feel. Vincent studied her carefully, surprised by her steady acceptance, despite the danger surrounding them. How exactly do you feel, Rosa? Rosa hesitated only briefly before answering honestly. Despite everything, despite the danger and complexity of your world, I find myself caring deeply about what happens to you, Vincent. Vincent's breath caught slightly, clear emotion flickering behind his intense gaze. Slowly, he reached out, gently taking her hand in his. I feel the same way about you, Rosa. More than I ever expected to feel again. Their quiet moment was interrupted abruptly when Antonio rushed back into the room, his expression alarmed. "Sir, we have a serious problem," he said urgently. "Marco escaped before we could apprehend him. Worse, he's already contacted Salvatore directly, revealing Rosa's location." Vincent stood immediately, his protective instincts fully activated. "How much time do we have?" "Very little," Antonio warned. Salvatore's men could already be moving toward this location. Vincent turned quickly to Rosa, his expression fierce with determination. "We need to leave immediately. It's not safe here anymore." Rosa nodded, fear coursing through her veins as she quickly gathered her things, following Vincent and his men out into the night. As they hurried toward a waiting vehicle, gunfire suddenly erupted from the shadows surrounding the property. "Get down!" Vincent shouted, pulling Rosa quickly behind a stone wall as bullets shattered windows and struck the ground around them. Vincent's men returned fire immediately, engaging the attackers fiercely. Rosa's heart pounded wildly, adrenaline coursing through her veins as chaos erupted violently around them. "We need to move now," Vincent said urgently, gripping her hand tightly as they made a desperate dash toward the vehicle amid the ongoing gunfire. They barely made it inside the car, tires screeching loudly as the driver sped away from the chaotic scene, leaving Vincent's men behind to handle the remaining attackers. Breathing heavily, Rosa turned to Vincent, adrenaline and fear evident in her voice. "Is this what your life is always like? Constant danger, sudden violence?" Vincent's expression was grim, guilt evident in his tired eyes. "Not always this intense, but yes, danger is a constant companion in my world." Rosa took a deep breath, processing the frightening reality of her situation. "I don't know if I can handle a life filled with this much danger, Vincent." Vincent studied her carefully, pain and understanding mixing behind his intense gaze. "I would never ask you to endure this permanently, Rosa. But right now, I need you to trust me completely. I promise I will keep you safe, no matter the cost." Rosa nodded slowly, uncertain but willing to trust him despite her fear. As the car sped through the dark city streets, she couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that the dangers surrounding them had only just begun. The car raced through the city's dark streets, Rosa's heart still pounding from a sudden attack at Vincent's residence. Vincent kept a firm grip on her hand, his expression tense as he scanned the surrounding streets for any signs of pursuit. "Where are we going now?" Rosa asked, her voice shaking slightly. "Somewhere Salvatore won't think to look," Vincent said grimly. "At least, not immediately." They arrived at a small, unremarkable building on the outskirts of the city, far removed from Vincent's usual properties. Inside, only a handful of his most trusted men waited, quickly securing the perimeter as Vincent led Rosa into a modest but secure room. "This should keep us safe temporarily," Vincent said, though his tense expression suggested he wasn't entirely convinced. Rosa sat down heavily, exhaustion and fear catching up with her all at once. "This is spiraling out of control, Vincent. First the diner, then your residence, now this. When does it end?" Vincent knelt beside her, his expression pained. "I wish I could promise you this ends quickly, but Salvatore is relentless when he senses weakness. Marco's betrayal has given him exactly the opening he's been waiting for." Before Rosa could respond, Antonio rushed into the room, his face pale with urgency. "Sir, we have a serious situation. Salvatore's men have located Rosa's grandmother's care facility. They're moving in now." Rosa's blood ran cold. "No, please, you have to help her." Vincent stood immediately, his expression hardening with fierce determination. "Get every available man to the facility immediately. I want her protected at all costs." Antonio nodded quickly, rushing to relay the orders. Rosa turned to Vincent, panic clear in her eyes. "Vincent, please. She's all I have left." "I promise you, Rosa, we will protect her," Vincent said firmly, though the tension in his voice revealed his own uncertainty about the situation's outcome. Minutes felt like hours as they waited anxiously for updates. Finally, Antonio returned, relief evident on his face. "Your grandmother is safe, Rosa. Our men arrived just in time, intercepting Salvatore's men before they could reach her." Rosa let out a shaky breath of relief, tears filling her eyes. Thank you so much." Vincent's expression remained serious, despite the good news. This confirms Salvatore is willing to escalate significantly to get to you, Rosa. We need to end this threat permanently, and soon. How? Rosa asked, wiping her tears away. We need to confront Salvatore directly, Vincent said firmly. Negotiate a permanent resolution, or eliminate the threat entirely if necessary. Rosa's stomach twisted with anxiety. That sounds incredibly dangerous. It is, Vincent admitted honestly. But allowing this conflict to continue indefinitely puts both you and your grandmother in constant danger. I won't allow that. Later that same night, as Vincent's men prepared carefully for a confrontation with Salvatore's forces, Rosa found herself unable to simply wait passively while others risked their lives for her safety. I want to come with you, Rosa said firmly, finding Vincent reviewing final preparations. Vincent looked up, clearly surprised by her request. Absolutely not. It's far too dangerous. This is about me, Rosa argued. Salvatore is targeting me because of my connection to you. I refuse to hide here while others risk their lives on my behalf. Vincent studied her carefully, respect flickering behind his serious expression. Rosa, if something happened to you. Nothing will happen if we're careful, Rosa interrupted firmly. I trust you, Vincent. Let me help end this, rather than remain a helpless bystander. After a tense discussion, Vincent reluctantly agreed to bring Rosa along, under heavy protection at all times. They arrived at a neutral meeting location shortly after midnight, Salvatore already waiting with several armed men positioned carefully around him. Vincent, Salvatore greeted coldly. And you brought the waitress. How convenient. This ends tonight, Salvatore, Vincent said firmly. Whatever grievance you have against my organization, it stops here. Salvatore smiled cruelly. Your organization has weakened considerably, Vincent. Marco's information proved quite valuable in exposing your vulnerabilities. Perhaps, Vincent replied calmly. But threatening innocent civilians crosses a line even in our world. Rosa has no part in our conflict. Salvatore studied Rosa closely, calculating interest evident in his cold eyes. She became part of this conflict the moment you decided to protect her so personally, Vincent. Rosa stepped forward despite her fear, her voice steady. I'm just a waitress who answered an honest question truthfully. Nothing more. Salvatore's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. Yet Vincent risked exposing his entire organization's vulnerabilities to protect you. That tells me you matter to him significantly. Tense negotiations followed, filled with calculated threats and careful posturing from both sides. Eventually, Vincent offered a permanent resolution, territorial boundaries clearly redefined, ensuring mutual respect and preventing further conflict between the two organizations. Salvatore, recognizing the potential costs of continued warfare, reluctantly agreed to the terms, understanding that pushing further risked significant losses on both sides. As the tense meeting concluded, Salvatore's men withdrew slowly, leaving Vincent and Rosa standing together amid the quiet aftermath of their dangerous encounter. Is it truly over? Rosa asked softly, relief and exhaustion evident in her voice. Vincent studied her carefully, admiration clear in his intense gaze. Thanks to your courage tonight, yes. Salvatore understands clearly now that further aggression would cost him far more than any potential gain. Rosa felt overwhelming relief wash over her, tears of exhaustion and gratitude filling her eyes. I can't believe we actually did it. Vincent gently reached out, cupping her face tenderly in his hands. You did it, Rosa. Your courage and honesty tonight proved more valuable than any negotiation tactic I could have used alone. Rosa leaned into his touch, emotion overwhelming her completely. I couldn't have faced tonight without you beside me, Vincent. Vincent's eyes softened completely, vulnerability and genuine affection evident clearly now. And I couldn't imagine facing any future challenge without you by my side, Rosa. In the days following the tense confrontation with Salvatore, life slowly began settling into a calmer rhythm. The agreement between Vincent and Salvatore held firm, each side respecting the newly established boundaries, allowing the constant threat of violence to finally fade into the background. Rosa remained at Vincent's residence during this period, Her grandmother, now safely relocated to a private care facility with discreet but thorough protection. Rosa visited her regularly, relieved beyond words that the danger surrounding them both had finally passed. One quiet afternoon, Rosa found Vincent sitting alone in his private study, reviewing paperwork with a calm, thoughtful expression. She knocked softly on the open door. "Can I join you?" she asked. Vincent looked up, a genuine smile forming at the sight of her. "Always." Rosa sat across from him, studying his relaxed posture, so different from the tense, guarded man she had first come to know. "You seem more at peace lately." "I am," Vincent admitted. "Resolving the conflict with Salvatore permanently has lifted a heavy weight I didn't realize I was carrying constantly." Rosa smiled softly. "I'm glad. You deserve some peace after everything you faced." Vincent studied her carefully, something serious forming behind his thoughtful expression. "Rosa, I've been thinking about our situation, about what happens now that the immediate danger has passed." Rosa's heart raced slightly, uncertain what he intended to say. "What do you mean?" "You never asked for any of this," Vincent said seriously. "You were pulled unwillingly into my dangerous world simply because you answered an honest question truthfully. Now that the threat has passed, I want you to know you're completely free to return to your normal life, without any obligation toward me." Rosa considers words carefully, memories flashing through her mind, the fear, the danger, but also the deep connection and genuine care she had discovered with Vincent despite everything. "Is that what you want, Vincent?" Rosa finally asked. "For me to simply walk away from all of this from you?" Vincent's expression grew vulnerable, genuine emotion clearly visible now. "No, it's the last thing I want. But I care about your happiness and safety more than my own desires, Rosa." Rosa reached out, gently placing her hand over his. "Vincent, I've had plenty of time to think about this since the danger passed. About returning to my simple, predictable life, away from all this complexity and risk." "And," Vincent asked quietly, clearly bracing himself for her answer. "I don't want that life anymore," Rosa said honestly, her voice steady despite the emotional weight behind her words. "Not because I have no choice, but because these past weeks have shown me qualities in you I never expected. Genuine kindness, deep loyalty, and quiet strength beneath a world that constantly demands ruthlessness." Vincent's eyes softened completely, vulnerability replacing his usual composed exterior entirely. "Rosa, being with me means accepting occasional risk, difficult choices, and moments of genuine danger. I won't pretend that reality away." "I know," Rosa said softly, "but I also know now that you would do anything to protect the people you care about, myself included. That kind of loyalty and devotion matters more to me than the safety of a predictable, ordinary life." Vincent reached out, gently cupping her face in his hands, emotion clear in his intense gaze. "That night at the diner, when I asked you that question, I never expected your honest answer to lead us here, to this moment." Rosa smiled gently through tears of happiness beginning to form. "Neither did I, but I'm grateful it did." "Stay with me, Rosa," Vincent said quietly, echoing words she had secretly hoped to hear. "Not out of obligation or danger, but because you genuinely want to build a future together, despite everything." Rosa leaned into his touch, tears falling freely now. "I choose this, Vincent. I choose you, completely." Weeks later, life settled into a new, unexpected rhythm for Rosa. She maintained a careful connection to her old life, visiting her grandmother regularly, though now with additional safety measures Vincent insisted upon as simple precaution rather than urgent necessity. Every evening, regardless of the demands of his complicated world, Vincent returned home to Rosa, grateful beyond measure for the honest waitress whose simple, truthful answer had once tested his trust, and then unexpectedly captured his heart completely. Sometimes, late at night, Rosa would think back to that fateful evening at the diner, to the unexpected question Vincent had asked her, and her simple, honest response. She never could have imagined that such a small moment of truth could completely transform her entire future. But as she looked at Vincent beside her, finally at peace despite the complicated world surrounding them, she knew without doubt that she would answer that same question exactly the same way again, without hesitation. Because sometimes, the simplest truths lead to the most unexpected, most rewarding paths. A lesson Rosa now carried with her every single day, grateful for the honest answer that had changed everything.